I've been covering South African politics and the decline of the white people in South Africa for a long time. And videos coming out of South Africa this week have literally shaken me up in terms of where we're headed here in Ireland. I'm going to show you a few scenes from Irish parks and Irish streets that are absolutely insane. And they're extremely similar to the dystopian nightmare that is Johannesburg and South Africa. Before we get into it, if you can do me a favour, please subscribe, share. If there's an option to hype the video, do that. One of the stories that jumped out at me this week was the retired couple who were in Kruger Park in South Africa. Let's say they lost their lives at the hands of some Wakandans because of the colour of their skin. Undoubtedly. So the story is big news, as you can see here. 2 tourists lose their life and they're dumped in croc-infested rivers at Poplar Safari Park. So the article goes into detail about how they broke away from a group and they were on a retreat, they were retired, they were enjoying one of the national parks in South Africa, one of the tourist attractions where it's visited by millions of people. They show where they went missing, they show a really intimidating picture of a crocodile. I guess the crocodile might be the culprit in terms of this white couple being eliminated in a national park. Nowhere in any of these articles will you find the reason why this white elderly couple lost their lives. Quite possibly a robbery, and I won't say that went bad because the added caveat of them being white and having their lives taken is something that we've seen a lot in South Africa. It's absolutely insane in terms of the white farmers being targeted over there. We've seen Donald Trump giving amnesty and refuge to the South Africans. There's so much dodginess going on with the South Africans and the American government and the Israeli government. It is the one decent thing that you can kind of take out of everything that's going on in the world at the moment. That is white people receiving refuge from Donald Trump to get away from targeted attacks, not just by the locals in these areas, but some people believe, and allegedly the police and the government are possibly involved in it as well. When you see real high-tech equipment like mobile phone jammers and things like that, these lads that are perpetrating these attacks on the farms can barely afford a pair of shoes, and on the other side then they seem to be able to afford government military grade technology to block the mobile phone signals as they go in and do what they need to do to the white people. So in terms of South Africa, that's where it's at. I've been covering it for a long time. This video, I believe, is from Johannesburg, and it kind of went viral this week. A lot of people were talking about it. And even just looking at it, you kind of imagine that it's a Middle Eastern country, that it's Gaza or one of the other Muslim countries that upset Israel and set Donald Trump off on an 8-front war for Israel. But it's not, it's South Africa. Just 30 years ago, this place was absolutely beautiful and thriving. And everywhere, as far as the eye could see, was white people building societies and enjoying societies. And this was one of the most sought after places in the world to go and live. The economy was booming, people were happy, and then we had democracy take over and the evil apartheid was done and dusted, and this is what you're left with. Of course, when you see YouTubers, content creators talking about how depraved Johannesburg is, or other South African cities, they never really address the situation. They never really talk about the elephant in the room. I'm going to play this video that I saw yesterday from Ireland, and it's just captioned, "God help Ireland." It's very interesting when you juxtapose this with what we just witnessed in South Africa. Remember, they're 32 years ahead of us. Looking at these scenes right here, you wouldn't think there's that much of a gap between the two countries, would you? I take it these scenes are outside the department store where just last week a Congolese engineer lost his life at the hands of another foreign engineer. But as you can see, the Africans have showed out in force on Dublin streets, and the fact that there's so many, the fact that they can pull together these sort of numbers, it really does make you think in terms of how many people are here, how many people they can muster up and get out on the street. Because remember, as I said last week, if it was an Irish homeless person or an Irish junkie that died, there wouldn't be any Irish people out there protesting for them. None whatsoever. So them scenes are insane, but they're not uncommon. This is a music festival in Germany. Now, we see these type of festivals show up all across Europe, London, Portugal, Spain, Greece, Italy. That's kind of what it looks like. Of course, you would be mistaken for thinking that this is like Ghana or some other African country. It's actually Germany. I know. The video before was actually Ireland, and so on and so on. This video here was very interesting because it was from Limerick City. And it was, I guess, a Somalian get-together, just your cash get-together in the local park. Ironically, I actually walked through this park whilst this Somalian get-together was happening. And I was thinking, holy shit. And again, I didn't have my camera with me. And I was just like, I would love to show my friends that all moved away from Ireland and now live in America. I'd love to show them what's actually going on here. But this was a gathering. This was organized. This wasn't organic per se. I happened to drive through the city yesterday near the train station. There was a hurling game on. I'm not interested in sports, but there was a lot of green jerseys and a lot of young girls, all wearing the exact same clothes, all having their hair done the exact same way, the exact same tiny little shorts with fake tan running down their legs, and the green jersey tied up right underneath the chest area. And whilst that does stand out in and of itself in terms of conformity and indoctrination, and exactly the opposite of what I would ever want to be near, what also stood out, if anybody knows that part of the city next to the station, is that there is so many foreign-owned businesses all up and down that street. That street is legitimately 90% foreign-owned. This is in a small Irish city. 90% of one particular street is foreign-owned. And what was incredible to witness is that outside every barber shop, outside every halal meat shop, outside every Turkish grill, every property and business that was once owned by an Irish person and now it's run by a Muslim person, every single proprietor of these businesses just so happened to be standing outside the front door of their business with groups of other men, and they just so happened to be sinisterly leering at every single young girl. There must have been a train coming because the place was packed. There was a collage of young girls in miniskirts and short pantses walking to the train station. And as I said, there was a lot of business owners out watching, leering, fraughting, imagining. But what was also insane was the fact that the young girls, some of which were with their parents, were oblivious to it, and so were the parents. There was a couple of drinks had, there was some person like hitting a ball around a pitch with a stick or something, and they were oblivious to the fact that was once an Irish-owned street in the middle of an Irish city now looks like you were walking through Mogadishu. They didn't get it, they didn't see it. Their faces were buried into the mobile phones. They were walking at speed. They were all wearing the exact same clothes, and it was something to behold. And in terms of the juxtaposition between South Africa and Ireland, I'm sure that 30 years ago there were South Africans walking around enjoying their games and enjoying their sports. And I'm sure that they were also oblivious to the slow, lethargic replacement that actually transpired. That was my musings for the weekend. Very interesting. As I said, in terms of Rhodesia, South Africa, these are staples of where we are headed. Once beautiful, clean societies, and over time, the replacement happened.